If you're preparing for tech interviews these days, you've probably heard of behavioral interview questions. Now, I know they can be a bit tricky sometimes, but don't worry, I've got you covered. I've been a recruiter for about 20 years now. I've worked in corporate recruiting, startups, companies like Indeed, and even Meta. And let me tell you, there is no perfect answer to behavioral interview questions, but hopefully the things you'll learn today will give you a new perspective on how to win over that interviewer. We're going to talk about how to tackle those questions confidently, using some proven strategies that will set you apart from everybody else that's out there. Plus, I'll share a few tricks and tips to help ace that interview. Let's dive in. So, what exactly are behavioral interview questions? Now, in tech interviews, this is usually those ones that kind of start with, tell me about a time when, or walk me through a situation when you were faced this. They're designed to gauge on how you've handled past situations, which really helps the interviewer gauge how you might handle that in the future. Now, this is achieved by telling a story about past situations that really brings that interviewer into your world. Now, this might be difficult to do if you're just not a natural storyteller. So let's see what we can do to fix that. So, one of the first things that you can do when it comes to, telling a good story is having good structure to any story that's out there. Now, you're going to find a lot of different methods that can help you with this. The method I prefer the most is called the STAR method, STAR, which stands for situation, task, actions, and results. Now, situations is just you setting the scene of the story. Like, where are you at? What's going on? Help the audience bring into your situation. Your tasks are going to be divided into what you're actually supposed to do. Then you've got your actions. Probably the most important part of this actual structure is to walk through what actual steps did you take in order to resolve that issue. And then finally, what were those results? Was it positive? Was it negative? What did you learn from that situation? It's always good to put it in some sort of structure so this way the audience can follow along in a linear pattern. All right, now that we understand the why and structure of behavioral interviews, let's get organized. Now, one of the best ways to tackle these questions is by using what we call a story toolbox. Now, the idea is simple. Create a toolbox document of behavioral interview questions and answers that tell stories from your career that highlight your skills, challenges you faced, and how you've overcome them. These stories will be your go-to when answering any behavioral questions. For example, a common interview question might be, tell me about a difficult technical challenge that you have faced. Now, I want you to ask yourself, what exactly are they trying to uncover with this question? Now, most folks will fall into the trap of overcomplicating the technicality of the situation and miss the point of the question. This is what we call the heart of the question. In most cases, we are trying to uncover a time when you face something that maybe you haven't done before, right? It's a challenge that you needed to overcome. And what we're really trying to figure out is, how did you solve that? What are some of those key points to actually get you through that situation? We want to see your problem solving. We want to see how you work through those things. And your story is going to encompass the heart of that. So really pay attention to any behavioral interview question that is asked, understand who your audience is, and most importantly, try to understand what are they trying to uncover with that. All right, let's talk about my first tip here. Now, what I want you to do is prepare versatile stories. A good story could be adapted to multiple interview questions. For an example, a project where you collaborated with a difficult team member could work for questions around teamwork, conflict resolution, or even leadership. Now, when you're doing your story toolbox, whatever you do, do not write a script down, right? When you read a script in an interview, you lose all credibility and it does not sound genuine. Also, if you have a very scripted answer, you're not going to be able to adapt to what kind of interview question that they're trying to get out of. If you have a story that you like to tell in your past, maybe it's a fun story you like to talk about when you're at a party, right? Depending on who your audience is, you might change a few of the details around, right? But if you know that story, you're able to do that. But if you have a very scripted answer, you're not going to be able to adapt. Instead of writing down a script, write down talking points. So this way you can make sure you're following along in that linear story pattern we talked about in the STAR method, which makes it easy for your audience to follow along and most importantly, relate. Now, this brings me to my second tip, probably the most important one. And that's practice, 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 right? Go through your toolbox of stories and rehearse answering questions out loud. Even better if you could find someone to role play these answers with. This helps with confidence, pacing, and making sure your answers are concise. And if you're role playing with somebody, you're able to see if those answers actually land. Do they make sense? Now, for my last tip. Don't be afraid to bring notes to the interview. Jot down titles of your stories, key talking points, just so that way you're always prepared. It's not about reading them verbatim, but having them handy to give you a boost of confidence when you need it. Now, if you found these tips useful, please hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to have so much more material coming your way, and these are the things that are really going to give you that competitive edge when it comes to competing in a very, very competitive job market. Look forward to seeing you around.